title of this mini podcast is Coincidental Happiness. Happy accidents are realities labeled as coincidences. So said the Grasshopper many years ago. The best definition I ever heard for coincidences came from Wayne Dyer in his book, The Power of Intention. He wrote, "The word coincidence does not describe luck or mistakes. It describes that which fits together perfectly." I'm not yet an aficionado of astrology, but I do like one of their phrases. The planets are aligned. When reality lines up in our favor, it's a happy accident. All things fit together perfectly. If we go a bit deeper than the surface, we find that all things fit together perfectly at all times. Life is one big, happy accident below the surface. It's when we filter life through our conditioning that we only get to see the perfection connection from time to time. The Grasshopper reminded us long ago, too, that reality is perfect. Even ivory soap doesn't measure up. Who would deliberately arrange to break a treasured family heirloom so that it even had more intrinsic value after the break? We could never assemble that logic. Reminds me of a happy accident. Many years ago, my grandson, who was 4 at the time, was secretly playing with a figurine that my wife's deceased mother had left her. It had more sentimental value than worth, but he dropped it and it broke. My wife burst into tears. It was one of the few tangible things she had to remind her of her mom. We assured her we could glue it back together, but nothing could console her until my grandson, who had recently seen The Lion King, went over to his sobbing grandmother and said, "Grammy, Hakuna Matata, no worries." More tears ensued, but these were tears of joy that came from the words of comfort offered by a little boy. The figurine took on new stature and had more value than it ever enjoyed before because of one of life's happy accidents. There is a connection to everything below the surface. We just don't have the intellectual apparatus to be able to see it at all times. We get glimpses, but not much more. It's only when we bypass our critical consciousness that we're able to make connections that are consciously invisible. Our intellect, no matter how developed, can only take us so far. It's when we temporarily suspend its mighty computing power that we get to visit the land of coincidence, where things fit together perfectly. It's here that we get to see that all things are connected. Nothing is separate and apart. Just knowing that the land of coincidence exists makes it possible for more happy accidents to show up in our everyday world. Any mind-calming practice will take you to the place where all things are connected, because mind calming is the gift that just keeps on giving. We collect more evidence with each visit that connection is everywhere at all times. Just knowing that connection is present breeds confidence. Confidence that you'll be guided to more coincidental connections. Reality happens in every moment. It's truly the only thing we can count on. We can continue to rail against it, or we can decide to explore the connections it offers. It's exploring the connections that have us bump into coincidences that turn into happy accidents. All the best, John.